Solomon, once the wisest and richest king the world had ever known, sat alone in his chamber. His once strong hands trembled slightly as he ran them over the cool stone of his throne. Age had taken its toll, and so had his many choices. He had everything: power, wealth, wisdom, but in his heart there was a deep unrest. He had built the house of God, yet in his later years he had built altars to other gods as well. His mind was burdened with thoughts of his father, David, a man after God's own heart. Would God remember Solomon the same way? Solomon's life had been filled with splendor, but also contradictions. He had written proverbs filled with wisdom, yet had ignored his own advice. He had been given divine understanding, yet had strayed from the path of righteousness. As he sat in his chamber, memories flooded his mind. His younger days, when he had first asked God for wisdom instead of riches, the glory of his reign, the day he dedicated the temple with grand sacrifices, and the voice of God speaking to him in dreams. But those dreams had long ceased. The Lord had warned him not to follow after foreign gods, but his heart had been led astray by his many wives and their gods. Now, the weight of his choices bore down on him. He had built a kingdom greater than any before him, yet he wondered if it would last. Outside the palace, whispers of rebellion were beginning. The once unified kingdom of Israel was showing cracks. Solomon's extravagant building projects had drained the people, and his taxes had grown heavier. There were rumors that God had spoken to a man named Jeroboam, a servant of Solomon, promising him a kingdom. Solomon's prophets had warned him, but he had dismissed them. He had always been in control, always the one with answers. But now, he felt the grip of time slipping away. His once loyal subjects were growing weary. His advisors were cautious around him, and his own sons were proving unworthy to inherit the throne. The mighty King Solomon was beginning to feel powerless. As his health declined, Solomon sought comfort in the writings he had once poured his heart into. He read the words of Ecclesiastes, his own reflections on life, and they felt truer now than ever before. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. The palaces, the gold, the power, it would all fade. The realization weighed heavy on him. He had loved wisdom, but had not always lived by it. He had sought pleasure, but it had not brought him peace. He had built the most glorious kingdom on earth, but even that would not last forever. He longed for the days when he walked closely with God, when he had heard his voice clearly, but he had strayed too far. Could he return? The final days of Solomon were filled with silence. The man who had spoken words of wisdom to rulers of the earth had little to say now. He spent his last moments watching the temple he had built, knowing that the kingdom would soon be torn apart. He had once prayed that his wisdom would be a blessing to Israel, but now his heart ached with the knowledge that his own failings would bring division. As he lay on his bed, weak and fading, he whispered prayers of repentance, hoping that the God of his father David would hear him once more. And then the great King Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, closed his eyes and breathed his last. His reign had been glorious, but in the end, he had learned that wisdom without obedience